Hello everyone! Today we are going to talk about something familiar in daily situation, that is phonetic process. Okay, what is phonetic process? Phonetic process are processes, okay, that usually done by a speaker to ease their pronunciation, to make the pronunciation smooth. Okay, we are going to talk about these processes one by one. Let's start with the first one. That is assimilation. Okay, when you see a movie, American movie, okay, have you ever heard them say shut up instead of shut up? And then they say 20 instead of 20. Or they say cupboard instead of saying the pronunciation like in the individual words, cup and board. Okay, they say cupboard. So those are assimilation. Assimilation is a process by which one speech sound comes to resemble or become identical with the neighboring sound. It can happen between words or within a word. There are three types of assimilation: regressive assimilation, progressive, and reciprocal assimilation. We're going to start with the first one, regressive assimilation. Most assimilation are regressive assimilation. Okay? Before we talk about the definition of regressive assimilation, we have to know that in assimilation, there are two things that is important. That is conditioning sound and assimilated sound. Conditioning sound is a sound that influence. Assimilated sound is a sound that undergo changes. Okay, the one that is changed, that is assimilated sound. So for example, here in newspaper, okay, here the assimilated sound, the one that influence it is the one that will change later on is the, and the one that influence the changes is sound p. Okay, so assimilated sound and the conditioning sound. Okay, let's talk about regressive assimilation. Regressive assimilation is sound changes because of the influence of the following sound. Remember, so the one that influence, the one that causes the change is the following sound, or the sound after that, after the one that changes. So for example, here we have the word newspaper. If you see the pronunciation of the word individually, news is like this. Okay, so it becomes news. And then if you see the word paper in the dictionary, the transcription is like this, paper. However, if you see the word newspaper, it becomes like this, newspaper. See the difference? Here it is the, and then here it is us. Okay, what happens? That is the regressive assimilation. Here, sound pa, okay, which is placed after the in newspaper, influence sound the. Why? Because this is voiceless. The is voiced. Okay, to ease the pronunciation, we have to make the sounds same, either both voiced or both voiceless. Both sound voiceless. So here it is easier to change sound the into pa. Why? Because this is voiceless. And then if you produce sound the into us, it will be a lot easier to pronounce. So instead of saying newspaper, it becomes newspaper. Okay? That is regressive assimilation. What about other examples of regressive assimilation? Okay, these two are other examples of regressive assimilation. So, for example, when we say goodbye, okay, goodbye, individually it will be like this: goodbye. Okay. However, okay, here when the meets the, okay, this is it is difficult, okay, even though both are voiced, yeah, both sounds are voiced. This one is bilabial and this one is alveolar. To produce alveolar sound, it will be more difficult. Why? Because it is it happens more at the back, okay, alveolar range. And then b is a lot easier. Why? Because there is the front, okay, the front, the bilabial on the lips. So people do not say goodbye, but mostly they say goodbye, okay, goodbye. It is not a matter whether it's right or wrong. It is what people usually do, okay. So instead of saying goodbye, they say goodbye. Why do they say goodbye? Because by changing the okay, the becomes a simulated sound. Okay, we change the into b, the pronunciation will be easier. Another example is the word shut up. Okay, if we see the individual sound, it is like this: shut up. Okay, but here the t will meet a. T is voiceless, yeah, whether a is voiced. Okay, like I said before, it will be easier to pronounce if both are voiceless or both are voiced. Here in this case, a will influence the. So here we use the. The becomes the assimilated sound and changes into the. So people will mostly in American they say shut up. Okay, okay, shut up. Instead of shut up, they say shut up. Shut up is easier to pronounce compared to shut up. Shut up. Goodbye is easier to pronounce instead of goodbye. Okay, so those are the reasons behind the regressive assimilation. The second one is progressive assimilation. Progressive assimilation is the other way around. So the sound changes because of the influence of the preceding sound. Okay, remember the preceding sound. Okay, for example, here the word read this. Read this. Here we have read as the conditioning sound, the one that influence. Okay, and then this. Okay, if we say it here, read, okay, so both are voiced. Both are voiced. But the is pronounced in the alveolar ridge, while the is pronounced in the its dental sound. Okay, so but they are alike actually. Okay, they are alike, but it is easier to pronounce the instead of the. Okay, so people tend to pronounce read this into read this. Yeah, read this. even though it's supposed to be with this, but they pronounce it with this. Why? Because it's a lot easier. Okay, the alveolar, they change the into the. Okay, the becomes the because of sound the. So the changes is here. Okay, the becomes the because of the. So the one that influence is preceding sound. Okay, the sound before the one that is changed. That is progressive assimilation. Okay, and here is another example of progressive assimilation. Okay, most progressive assimilation happens in the addition of suffix. Okay, like this, for example, suffix s to show plural. Okay, the individual transcription, it will be like this: bag and then s, bag and then s. But in the pronunciation, sound s will be pronounced as z. Okay, so we do not say bags, but we say bags. So in this case, sound s is influenced by the preceding sound g. G influence s. Okay, so it becomes bags instead of bags. Okay, why? Because this is the voice and this one is voiceless, so it will be easier if both are the same, voiced. Okay, so we change the voice s into z because z is voiced, so it becomes bags. Okay, it happens also in other situation, like addition of us or addition of ed ending, as ending. Okay, so all are progressive assimilation. The last one is reciprocal assimilation. In reciprocal assimilation, there is no conditioning or assimilated sound. Why? Because there is mutual influence or fusion of the sounds. Okay, so they influence each other. So for example here, did and then you. Okay, did and then you. The here and yeah, the and yeah both are voiced. Okay, but the is in alveolar. The place of articulation is alveolar. Yeah, the place of articulation is palatal. So it will be easier to pronounce if they meet between alveolar and palatal. That is the alveopalatal. So the sound the and y becomes j, j, dj. Okay, why? Because u usually changes into the weak form. Okay, so instead of saying you, becomes y. Okay, so did you becomes teacher. Okay, same like in want you, can't you. Okay, let's see other examples. Another example is here, can't you. Okay, individually the transcription will be like this, can't and then you. But the and yeah becomes becomes ch. Okay, why? Because t is alveolar, y is palatal, so it will be easier for them to meet between the two. That is the alveopalatal sound. So can ch. Okay, t is voiceless, so it becomes the voiceless of alveopalatal ch. Okay, can ch. Did you, did you. Can't you, can't you. Want you, want you. Okay? So those are the examples of reciprocal assimilation. Next process of phonetic process is metathesis. Metathesis happens because there is transposition of speech sound. In the past, the word tragedy, the word tragedy, is actually tragedy. The word ask were ask. Why? Because most people in the past they said like that. Instead of saying they said tragedy, instead of strategy they said tragedy. So until now we use the pronunciation that is actually transposition of the word tragedy. Actually it was tragedy, and then ask were actually ask. But we use the pronunciation of the transposition. Another examples of metathesis is the word bird. In the past it was breed. For example, the word bird, it was in the past it was breed. But people transpose the word. Instead of saying breed they say bird, and so this word that we use until now. Also the word third, it was thread. But people say it third. They make transposition of the word thread into third, and these are the words that we use today: bird and third. Another phonetic process is epenthesis. Epenthesis is the insertion. Remember, the key is here, the insertion of extra consonant within a word. For example, in the word something. In the word something, actually it is like this, something. But if we hear the pronunciation of people, they say they insert the word sound p. So it becomes something. For example, the name Thompson, it doesn't need p, but some people when insert the sound p between, it becomes Thompson. Thompson. Something. Thompson. Another examples are the word empty. So these are another example of epenthesis. So in the past it was empty like this, but suddenly we hear, if we pronounce empty, it is difficult. Why? Sound is bilabial, and then here we have t. T. This is plosive, bilabial plosive. This is alveolar fricative. When we want to end the sound and then changes into t. The tongue, the position of the tongue is still in bilabial. But the air changes into but the air goes out through the oral cavity. Remember, this is nasal, this is oral cavity, this is bilabial nasal, this is alveolar oral. So when we end the word bilabial, nasal, and then we want to change it into t, yeah, alveolar oral, the tongue, okay, the tongue is still in the bilabial position, okay, but the air changes, okay, the air goes out through the oral cavity, okay, oral cavity. That's why we have sound p, okay, we have sound p, so it becomes empty, okay, empty. In fact, it was empty without the. Same thing happened in something, the word something before. Okay, here sound changes into the. Okay, here we have bilabial, nasal, and then here we have oral sound. Okay, so the position of the tongue is still in the bilabial, but the sound change, but the air goes out from nasal cavity before when we produce sound becomes oral. Okay, so the velar, okay, have changed, okay, from, so the air goes out through oral cavity now, okay, while the tongue is still in bilabial position. So that's why we have p. Okay, why? Because p is bilabial plosive. Okay, the position of the tongue is the same like but the air goes out through oral cavity, same like the. Okay, so that is the answer. Okay, another phonetic process is epithesis. Remember, this is the different epithesis before epenthesis. Still, it is about extra consonant, but at the end of the word. Okay, the end of the word. So, for example, the word sound. Yeah, the word sound. In the past, it was sound like this. Okay, without the. Yeah, sun without the. Okay. Now, however, if this is nasal sound, yeah, again, n is nasal sound. And then if we want to end the position, okay, if we want to add sound, okay, sound, we end it at the sound n, okay. The position of the tongue, okay, the position of the tongue, want to be in the rest position, okay, want to be in the rest position, okay, and then we want to, and usually, okay, normally the air will go out through oral cavity, okay, so the position of the tongue is still the same with sound both are alveolar, okay, both are alveolar, and the are alveolar, okay. The position of the tongue is still the same in alveolar, okay, same like n, but the air goes out through oral cavity now. So that's why there is extra sound consonant d. Okay, if you end it into n, yeah, sound, there is an upward position in our mouth. Okay, but if we end it into sound, it will be it sounds better and it feels better. Okay, so that's why people add d at the end of sound, so it becomes sound. And these are the spelling that we have now. Next, we have elision. Elision is a process where one or more phonemes are dropped. Okay, so we omit. Yeah, we omit. They are dropped. Usually, it is done to simplify the pronunciation. So, for example, the word police, it becomes please. Correct becomes crack. Suppose can be suppose. And then friendship, okay, it's supposed to be the here. Friendship, it is easier to be pronounced as friendship. Okay, so the is omitted. Okay, so elision is where one or more sound are dropped or omitted. But one thing that we have to remember is the omission of sound or in American English. Yeah. For example, here, if you see the movie, instead of saying give her or give him, they say giver, give him. Instead of tell her or tell him, they said tell him or tell him. Is it the same like progressive example of progressive assimilation before? Yes, it is. Okay, because it can be omitted. Yeah. Okay. So here is from the point of view of the sound being eliminated. That is elision. And if we see which one is influenced the changes, we see it from the point of view of assimilation. Okay, and then would have becomes would have, should have becomes should have. Also, those are elision. Another phonetic process is cluster reduction. Cluster reduction, okay, are condition when two or more consonants, although it is in a similar nature, they come together, and there is a tendency that what is it? In such cluster, we eliminate one of the sounds, okay, to make it simple. Cluster reduction can occur between as well as inside the words. Okay, so let's see the example. Okay, like this. I hope you still remember what is meant by consonant cluster. Okay, because cluster here refer to the word consonant cluster. Okay, so we reduce the cluster. We reduce the sound of the consonants in the cluster. So for example here, asked. Okay, asked. It's supposed to be like this. No elision. This is the complete one. Asked. Okay, but when we talk to people, okay, in everyday conversation, we tend to forget k here. So we drop the k, it becomes asked. Okay, or for example, the word desktop here, desktop, desktop. And then in our pronunciation, we say desktop. The k is dropped. The k is elided. Yeah. Hard disk. We omit one d. Here, it becomes hard disk. Okay. Kept quiet. Okay. That is p-t. Yeah. P-t. Kept. This is the consonant cluster. And then we tend to forget the t. Okay. We say just kept quiet. Okay. Or maybe next to. It happens all the time. Instead of next to, remember, next to you have k as the consonant cluster. And then since there is another t in the word to, we say it next to instead of next to. Yeah. Is it natural? Yes, it's natural. Okay. Even though we say it is not the same with the the pronunciation as it should be, but it is something natural happen in everyday situation. Again, like I said before, the phonetic process is usually done by people to make the pronunciation a lot easier. Okay, the last one is vowel reductions. Here we reduce the vowel. Okay, so the articulation of vowel position is reduced. How do we reduce vowel? By changing it from the strong form into the weak form. I hope you still remember the gradation. Okay, so here, considerate, yeah, considerate, and then we add suffix ion, becomes consideration. Considerate, yeah, considerate becomes consideration. As you see here, the primary stress is shifted from the second syllable into the third syllable. Okay? Oh, sorry. From the second syllable into the fourth syllable. So here, the fourth syllable is weak form. Okay? Why? Because it is not stressed. It is not the primary stress. It is weak stress. Okay? So we use but when it becomes the primary stress, the weak form changes into the strong form. Ration. Ray. Okay? So from becomes a. Again, from considerate. Okay? Because this is okay, red is weak form. And then becomes consideration. Okay, so here Ray become a strong form. So the vowel is different. Also in the other way around, from consideration into considerate. Okay, if we change, for example, from consideration into considerate, the word Ray from strong form becomes yeah, considerate. So from the strong form becomes the weak form. That is the vowel reduction. Thank you very much for your attention.